the Almajiri education, which of course you all remember the federal government has commissioned one of the many model schools which they intend to put across states up north and Edo State, because they say they requested for it. And they also made us understand that the Ministerial Committee on Almajiri Education Study indicates that there are about 9.5 million Almajiris in the country. But we'll shed some more light perhaps on that in a moment. But let's give you this background and we'll take it from there afterwards.
It was an occasion that attracted almost all the royal fathers in the north. They were seated as early as 10 o'clock in the morning. Their presence is indicative of the importance they attach to education, especially this one designed to take children out of the streets. Also present is the former President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Alhaji Shehu Shagari, the Chairman of the Senate Committee on Education, Senator Uche Chukwumerije, the Governor of Zamfara State, Alhaji Abdulaziz Yeri, as well as his Kebbi State counterpart. The Sultan of Sokoto arrives and was followed by the President, Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, accompanied by the Sokoto State Governor. President Jonathan rails out startling statistics which places the northeast part of the country as having the largest number of Almajiris. According to him, and in fulfillment of his presidential campaign promise, equal access to education is a must for every Nigerian child.
Knowledge is the pedestal on which a nation's social cohesion and economic development depends. No nation achieves greatness if its youth, who are its greatest assets and successor generation, have no access to quality education. The fact that the majority of these children do not attend conventional basic educational schools makes the situation quite worrisome. The administration believes that the time has come for the nation to build on the moral foundation of the traditional school system by providing the Almajiri with conventional knowledge and skill that will enable them fully realize their creative and productive potentials.
The Governor of Sokoto State is full of praises to the federal government for the initiative. He goes beyond the Almajiri to enumerate what his administration is doing, even for the destitute. The Sultan of Sokoto calls on the parents of the Almajiris to embrace the new culture in the education of their children, while the Minister of Education says funding is by the federal government.
To address this twin problem of destitution and which spans the Almajiri phenomenon, the state government has equally addressed the issue by establishing a department which caters for the welfare of the physically challenged persons in the state. A welfare package is also designed through the establishment of which gives 6,500 naira to destitute persons, individuals with one form of disability or the other in the state.
We must begin by calling upon parents to appreciate the fact that education, both Islamic and conventional, is the greatest gift we could bequeath our progeny.
The federal government will provide the following: funding for the construction, furnishing and equipping of the schools, development and printing of textbooks to be used in the schools, development of curricula aligned with the National Basic Education Program, as well as capacity building for teachers.
It's not about speeches alone. The president was joined by other special guests for the cutting of the tape to commission the first Almajiri model school in Nigeria. President Goodluck Jonathan took time to register some of the first intakes into the model school, after which he took a group photograph with them. An inspection of the hostel indicates that there are full boarding facilities that can cater for at least 250 students to start with. 30 of such schools have been built across the 18 states of northern Nigeria, a project that is said to have cost the federal government over 5 billion naira.
All right then, there you have it. Well, this morning we're joined by Dr. Isuwa Dogo, who is a political scientist and former commissioner in Kaduna State. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Well, when we hear that there are about 9.5 million of them in the country, and the government is coming up with this project at this time, those who were asked, wait a minute, how did we get up to this? Was it that they glossed over it in time past and such? It escalated up till got this high?
Well, by my own estimation, I'm certain that it is much more than that.
Whoa.
And when you are looking at 9.1 million, probably, and you are restricting it only to the northern states, and probably the northern states, the far north, we are forgetting that this cuts across the whole country. And when you talk of Almajiri, I think you have to give a different definition to this aspect of Almajiri. In the north, when you say Almajiri, they look at it purely in the context of what I will describe as religious slavery. Remember, the parents of these children are, in most cases, illiterates. They are deceived into believing that those Islamic Malams have anything good to give them. In the first place, those Malams do not even understand the Holy Quran, not to talk of teaching them what they are supposed to understand about the Holy Quran. And so in the conventional schools, you find most children in the north who go to the conventional schools, they understand, read and interpret the Holy Quran a lot better than those that are Almajiris who have been prevented. And in those days when we were very young, if you find those going to conventional schools, the Almajiris will stand on the road and be laughing at them that they are going to Boko or whatever it is. But they didn't know that those children were better equipped in every aspect of life than with respect to religious beliefs, than those who are going only to the so-called Quranic school, because you can't give what you don't know anyway. Because those Malams that teach them don't even understand. They can't read and understand that very Arabic which the Quran, the Holy Quran, is written in, not to talk of telling them the right thing. So this is more than a welcome development. More than a welcome development in the sense that it has been long overdue, and we expected that this thing should have been done much earlier, but it is not late that they have started. We are trusting and believing that not only the federal government but all the states will be involved in this very project and ensure that education becomes something.
States of the Federation?
Yes, I mean it, all the states of the Federation. When I say that, I am not exempting any other state, from Bayelsa to Damaturu. You are here
in what context? How?
I will explain the context in which I mean. Education is not an option. Education is a necessity. Any country that will develop must ensure that all its citizens are educated in whatever level you can think of, are equipped in one way or the other. You get on the streets of Lagos any day. How many young people do you see that are not going to school? They don't have to be in Quranic things to call them Almajiri. Is that the
typology of Almajiris?
Exactly. The same thing in Bayelsa, the same thing in Wari, the same thing in Akwa Ibom, the same thing in Cross River, the same thing across the whole country. So Almajiri is a typology as far as I'm concerned, not just a restriction to a particular part of the country, because our young people all over are wasting away. You go to central Lagos, you see them. Am I wrong? You go there, you are here in Lagos, you see them.
So it's not out of place then for the governor of Edo State to actually ask for that kind of school in his state?
Absolutely not out of place. In fact, it's a necessity in every state of the Federation. I'm repeating that the whole country needs a sort of revolution in the educational sector. And I'm one of the few that believe that Nigeria has the capacity, the capability, and the ability to provide education for every single youth. Every single child born in Nigeria up to university level, free.
Have you thought about the sustainability? Because we were discussing yesterday, and we realized that not all of the schools will have boarding facilities, knowing full well that one of the problems of the Almajiris is shelter and food. So if you don't have boarding facilities for them, that means you don't have shelter, you don't have food. So when they come to school and they go back, where do they go back to? To the streets?
No, that's not entirely correct. Most of the Almajiris have parents, have shelter. I'm just telling you the truth. They have it.
What about those you just mentioned in Lagos? That you go to Lagos Island, some of these people...
It doesn't mean that they don't have shelter. It doesn't mean they don't have shelter. It's only negligence. And you see, when you talk of education, you have to even educate the parents. And one of the dividends of democracy, I thought from the inception to 1999, was to change the perception and the way people think at all levels. We're not just talking of educated people. You see, you can even have an educated illiterate, mind you. But we are talking of changing the perception of people to make people understand that education is not an option. So an average parent who will send a child to go and do some menial things. Remember, most of those Almajiris go out to beg. Look, there were occasions in the north when you give them food by the mosque. Are you getting me? They will take the food, eat it, and disappear. They are not going to enter the mosque. So you will now ask this question: what is it that they are teaching them? They are supposed to be religiously inclined, and therefore at the mosque, if they eat, they are supposed to go in for Friday prayers, but they don't. You see? So they have parents, but those malams deceive them, make them believe it is a better way. They go and then beg for alms and take it back to them. So it's a form of slavery.
Who should they be targeting? I mean, in terms of getting the children to come to school,
they should target both the parents, not just the children. In fact, the parents are the greatest source of problems that we have. Do you see?
Why do you say so?
It is not an issue of poverty. Look, poverty is a relative thing. When you are determined, you can send your child to school no matter how poor. And you are going to do everything practically possible to ensure that the child went to school. Some of us, we didn't go to school because our parents were rich in any form. But because of the determination, you may not understand there are some children in this country, if they are given the proper orientation, they will work extremely hard, to find themselves in schools. But it's because the orientation is not there. So it is not just the children. We are talking of a comprehensive approach to education, children, parents, to make them understand that, look, that big man you see that you go to worship and ask for pennies to serve yourself, your child can be him tomorrow. And your child can take care of you, your family, and the whole community in one form or the other.
What about the point that, religion? People could get touchy or worked up if you say certain things about their religion. Now, because are we glossing over the fact that it could be, because, well, if you're going to teach them Quran, Islamic schools, yes, the parents may say, in that, guys, why, by all means. So what about that aspect? How, in terms of sustainability of this project, what if they prefer, I think they'd rather go to where I'm sure they'll learn traditionally.
That is a mistake which many people make. You see, one of the greatest mistakes which many countries have made, including Nigeria, is to remove religious instructions in their curriculum. It is not like that. There in the school, you will learn more about religion. Your mind will be broadened. You will understand the religion a lot better. Do you see it? In these schools, they will learn more about the Holy Quran and the Holy Prophets more than what they do in the Quranic schools. That is the concept. The concept is not that they are just going there to learn Western education only.
Because we actually saw, sorry to butt in here, because we actually saw computers and some other learning aids. So that brings to mind the kinds of teachers that we should also put in there.
Educated people. We are talking of educated, even now there's this kind of policy that saying, look, youth corpus should teach in primary schools mostly and other things of that nature, which may be a welcome development. But what they are giving them is a comprehensive knowledge. So you will learn more about your religion. And we are saying that, truly speaking, in every part of the country, I think religious instructions should become it should be necessary. It shouldn't be an option. If you are a Muslim, I think it should be mandatory that you are taught the concept, the principles about your religion. If you are a Christian, it should be like that from primary to secondary school. In my view, when you leave primary school, secondary school, for example, you are now in a level of being an adult. You can choose. But to say, oh, look, you should allow the person to decide, I think is a misconception on the side of parents and those that design these things. A good number of people are what they are today because they were molded religiously. Do you see it? And anybody who thinks that religion doesn't play a part in your life is making a big mistake.
Yesterday we had this particular report, which rather interview which we actually had Femi, Professor Odekunle, yes, specifically he said, well, we should have done this 30 years ago. So being someone who is from the north and you were actually a commissioner in the north, has there been any case of, should I say, security threat or violence that has emanated from the Almajiri system before now?
No. I don't think that the violence has been emanated from the Almajiri system. But there can be easy tools to be
what has been the negative impact of the Almajiris in the north before now?
The negative impact of it is preventing these children from going to school, and they become susceptible to the violent aspect of those who are criminally minded, and they find them as ready tools because they have been brainwashed into believing in what they shouldn't believe in. And therefore, if they tell them something, because they can't conceptualize, they can't reason, they can't rationalize, and they are just there, that is why I said this one is like what you call religious slavery. So they can easily accept anything they are told. You know, there's a difference between somebody who is educated and you can decide on what it is. Remember, education, as I told you, is not an option. If you talk of armed robbery, there are fewer graduates that are armed robbers than those who are not. There are fewer graduates that go into a lot of criminally minded areas than those who are not. And if you discover that, I'm not sure. Even the issue of Boko Haram, as you talk, I know that there are educated people, but I'm also certain there are fewer people who are really educated with good jobs that will go and offer themselves to die.
Now, Chamberlain used the word sustainability. Maybe we should explore that. How sustainable can this be? Knowing full well there are loads of other schools yet to be built, but do you think we can sustain this as a nation?
We can more than sustain it. And there are so many ways we can sustain it. I take, for example, the issue of security vote. The states don't pay police, they don't pay SSS, they don't pay anybody. What happens to it? Should it actually be there? How much do these states budget for security votes? What do they use them for? Can this kind of money be channeled to education? I believe sincerely there are so many votes and so many different kinds of money that are wasted that can be channeled to education. If you leave me, I can say, look, not less than 10% of Nigeria's budget should go to education. If the worst comes to the worst, and there is a means, a will, maybe that kind of money should be set aside before anything else. And it doesn't have,
Sorry to butt in there, but because, I mean, when you talk about the academia, we've seen the situation we are in this country with our education system. We've seen schools that have gone from bad to worse. Budgetary provisions are very low. Some say abysmal. We've seen the way government has handled education in time past. And so, I mean, if they say, you know what a man can do by what he's done before, if the northern states haven't done anything about this until now, what's the guarantee that if they because government is going to draft the curriculum, the funding, almost wholly.
I mean, what you are saying is correct, but you see, during our time, the public schools were the best schools.
And they were taught both religions, pray in both languages.
Exactly. That is what I'm coming to. You know, I said a comprehensive revolution, isn't it? That doesn't mean it cannot come back again. It's practically possible to do so. It's practically possible to go to those yesteryears where public schools were about the best. And you train both teachers and adequately compensate them and make them to be what they should be. People don't go into teaching because they feel that it's a waste of time. And when somebody tells you that your reward is in heaven, it is a misnomer. You want your reward here, you go to the same market, buy in the same way. From the primary to the university level, we have seen the paucity of teachers. And we have seen the kind of problems they go through. We are talking that these people should earn living wages and we should encourage people to go there. Few people go to do PhD because when you go, you have to pay through your nose and you don't have any other means of livelihood. In the developed world and in so many places, those who go to do PhD are given scholarship automatically and given jobs. Those who go to do masters, so many institutions are given to give them scholarships in one form or the other. That is what we are asking. We are not only talking of government here. We are also talking of private institutions, corporate and individuals. And there is a sort of development. If you look at now, we have 24 universities, isn't it? 3/4 of those universities are owned by private institutions, religious and private bodies, isn't it? Which is a good thing. We are saying that even these people should go down to the primary, secondary school level and establish these institutions, because you have to have well-equipped people anyway before they can go to the university. And by the way we are going, before 2015, we may have about 300 universities in the country. And you will be talking of JAM. So maybe some people who get just 120 in JAM will still get admission in one form or the other. But we are saying it is practically possible to transform the system. And those schools that are owned by government produce the very best. In the first place, we have institutions like Queen's College and others that for long will get the very best.
Well, tell us what you think here. We have this tweet coming in from Aisha, and she's asking, is the Almajiri school system restricted to only Muslims? What about the non-Muslims who are on the streets as well in the north?
That is exactly what I said at the beginning, that it is not an issue of restricting it to say these are Almajiris. That's the opening statement I said. All children that are roaming the streets have the right to go to school.
That's the reason I asked you earlier as to who should the target be, because you already know that you have droves of children moving around begging for alms, and you also have those who are yet to join them, but might soon join them. So where should we, or who should we target? Should we target those who are already roaming around, or should we target those who are yet to join?
Both. And that is why I said orientation of parents is uppermost. We must make parents to see the need to send their children to school. So whether you are roaming the streets or not, whether you have joined or you have not, you should go to school. And let me tell you, if you go to that Sokoto, it doesn't necessarily mean that those that are there are those who have been roaming the streets. In the first place, when you talk of roaming the streets, it shouldn't be the context, because they are supposed to be in Quranic schools, and they're supposed to pick them from those schools and take them to this particular school. And you know, I was just thinking yesterday, the name Almajiri school. If you look at Almajiri, the real meaning actually means student in a way. Do you get it? But in this context, the way we look at it, it has a sort of negative connotation. Should we actually call it Almajiri school? Can we change the name and make it more acceptable to others, and make people understand that, look, this school is not the kind of school you think, that it is meant for the downtrodden and those people who have nothing, who have been beggars, and it is purely an Islamic, you go to learn the Quran, which is not the case. It is a comprehensive model school that will teach you every aspect.
Are you afraid it could be hijacked by non-Almajiris in quote? Because now, how do we recognize who is an Almajiri?
Oh no, exactly. That is what I'm saying. You shouldn't be talking of Almajiri. We are talking of all children of school age who do not have the opportunity to go to school and should go to school.
But for now, the government seems to be concerned about the Almajiri.
Oh, well, it's a concept, and when there is a concept, it can always be modified to accommodate people who are least privileged. That is why I said from Bayelsa to Damaturu. Do you see it? Because they are there.
Now, that's a problem. I mean, it gives us a problem in the sense that you also said earlier as to, you know, that poverty sometimes is a mentality that no matter how poor you are, if you're determined to send your child to school, your child will go to school.
Yes.
You understand? You'll look for a way to make sure that that child goes to school. But this one, it's free in the sense that this is the government is targeting this at a specific group of people. You get my point now, because this can, if we look at it aside from that, the chances are very high that it could be politicized in the sense that someone might say, well, I don't have enough money to send my child to school, and anyway, I have to send my child to school. So how do I get the money? Are you saying that this should cut across all strata, and this should be about putting every single child in school?
In every single community, whether you like it or not, people know those who cannot afford. If you go to your village, if I go to my village now, if I enter my village, I know you can see children that you know their parents cannot afford to send them to school.
That's the reason why they're not in school, not those who are already going, even though their parents can barely afford.
Exactly. So we are targeting this group of people that we know. There are two aspects here, mind you. There are two key issues here. People who cannot and people who can't, but the parents have that mentality that, look, they are best suited in the religious schools. It's not all those children you see on the streets in northern Nigeria that their parents cannot pay anything for them to go to school. It's not true. But because of the mentality they have, that, look, they want them to be religiously inclined, that they are not in school.
So we target those ones as well.
Exactly.
Okay.
Do you see? But there has to be a beginning, and every system can be modified.
Well,
it's a concept that can be improved upon, and modalities work out on how to capture all those that are supposed to go to school. In the first place, you remember, in some states they said, look, education is compulsory and free at the primary level. Yet you find so many of them not there. So the question you will ask is that what has happened to the parents of these people? Have they been properly enlightened to make them understand that education is not an option but a necessity?
You've been in public and private sector. You know how some of these things work. Intention is what a lot of people read. But now that government has come up with this, we do hope that it's not because of the security challenge we have. That's why they're coming up with this. Because, I mean, there's a research that says people don't just buy what you do, but why you do it. If they all don't key into why they're doing this, the question of sustainability again comes in. But you think that they're willing to see this beyond the fact that we need to address security challenge, and as soon as it's gone, is there no possibility of them just resting on their oars?
No, that's not correct. Some of these things have been on the pipeline for a very long time now, and in fact a good number of state governments in the north have done quite a great deal about it, only that it was not publicized. Take for example, there was a time in Kaduna State, the president, vice president tried as much as possible to ensure that this issue was addressed. In fact, some schools were even built for this very purpose, and the present governor did not leave that. He has carried on with that very policy. I'm talking that the vice president of this country, before he became vice president, as governor of Kaduna State, he did something exactly like this, and those schools are there to be testified to.
What about in terms of the impact?
The impact is the result. You know, again, when something is not publicized, you wouldn't know. But quite a good number of children were captured, and the present governor is doing exactly the same thing, carrying on in the same problem. So it is not because of the security challenges. It is not, because the concept has been there for quite a long time. Look at it, the schools, how many have been built? It couldn't have been because of Boko Haram that you have 30 who will have been built within this short period of time.
Okay, sir.
And the governors at that time, I think they were trying to bring the federal government, even since Obasanjo's time, into the concept to ensure that some of these things were addressed properly.
Do you have any fears?
About what?
About the school?
No, I don't.
You have no fears at all?
I don't have any fears, and in fact it is one of the most positive developments that the federal government has done in recent times, and I believe sincerely that it should be encouraged, and not only the states, private individuals. Look, if you want to build a school for any particular purpose, for God's sake, in fact do so. Most of our rich people are not investing enough at the primary and the secondary school levels. You see more now, people are talking of the universities, but you have to catch them young, and you have to progress from there. Yeah. And any government at any level that toys with education, you are destroying your system. Remember, if a nation gets adequate educated people, you have reduced the problem of that country by half, because from crime to health, a lot will be reduced. Not many educated people will do some of these dirty things that you see. So it is absolutely encouraging that the federal government has stepped into this. And I think more should be given to education, training of children and the teachers up to the university level. And I will also encourage that people should give people scholarships to do postgraduate courses in different ways and different research fields on this area.